1 week after the sudden and tragic deaths of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle, the world was stunned by the unexpected news. And even closer, the private circle of their family faced an unimaginable heartbreak. Their children, Romy and Jake, arranged a funeral at a private location, intending it to be an intimate gathering for immediate family only. However, from the very first moments, the event created an atmosphere of mystery and tension that would shock those who had long been close to the Reiners. Friends who had supported Rob for decades, people who had laughed with him, cried with him, and celebrated his successes, were not invited. Many tried calling to inquire, hoping to attend and pay their final respects, but they were met with cold, distant replies. Some were bluntly told, "My father's funeral is none of your business." Among those excluded, perhaps the most heart-wrenching absence was that of Rob's adopted daughter, Tracy Reiner, who would share a lifetime of love, guidance, and artistic connection with her father. Though Rob had raised her as his own daughter, taught her to appreciate the arts, and encouraged her acting career, Tracy was told she could not attend, because her siblings considered her an outsider and argued that the inheritance she received was sufficient recognition of her place in the family. This exclusion not only shocked Tracy, but also sent ripples of disbelief through Hollywood, as close friends and collaborators tried to understand how someone who had been considered family could be denied the chance to say goodbye. The tension surrounding the funeral was compounded by a mixture of grief, secrecy, and unspoken family dynamics that had apparently been simmering for years, creating a scenario that was at once tragic, bewildering, and deeply emotional for everyone involved. Among those excluded from the funeral, none held a closer or more enduring connection to Rob Reiner than Billy Crystal, the actor, comedian, and longtime friend whose relationship with Rob spanned nearly half a century. Their friendship began in the mid-1970s when Crystal appeared in a guest role on All in the Family, the show that had catapulted Rob into the limelight as Mike Meathead Stivic. From that seemingly ordinary encounter, a bond formed almost immediately, rooted in shared humor, mutual respect, and a natural understanding of one another's personalities. Over the years, their connection deepened through countless projects, social events, and personal milestones. Rob not only cast Crystal in major films such as This Is Spinal Tap and When Harry Met Sally, but he also supported him in ways that extended far beyond the screen, offering encouragement, advice, and companionship during both joyful and challenging times. The two men shared private jokes, small celebrations, and moments of quiet reflection, building a friendship that became almost familial in its intimacy and loyalty. Yet, despite this extraordinary history and the depth of their personal bond, Billy Crystal was denied an invitation to Rob Reiner's funeral, a decision that stunned many in Hollywood. Sources close to the family indicated that Rob's children, overwhelmed by grief and seeking to maintain strict privacy, made the difficult choice to limit attendance to immediate family, fearing that the presence of major stars could turn the funeral into a spectacle. Crystal, deeply hurt yet understanding of the family's desire for discretion, refrained from public protest, choosing instead to honor Rob through public statements, interviews, and private recollections shared with those who knew him best. Even in his absence, the emotional weight of this exclusion was profound. Billy Crystal, who had witnessed the lives of Rob and Michelle Reiner unfold over decades, and who had stood beside Rob during the death of his father, Carl, felt the loss not only as the absence of a dear friend, but as a silent acknowledgement of the emotional complexity within the Reiner family. The decision, though understandable from a familial perspective, highlighted the tension between private grief and the bonds of friendship that had lasted a lifetime. For Crystal, the heartbreak was compounded by the sense of finality. The funeral represented the ultimate chance to say goodbye, yet he was barred from that intimate farewell. The absence of such a long-time companion added a layer of sorrow to the proceedings, reminding everyone that grief and human relationships often carry complexities that cannot be easily reconciled. Even so, Crystal continued to honor Rob's legacy through stories, interviews, and heartfelt tributes, preserving the memory of their unique friendship for fans and colleagues alike, demonstrating that while doors may close physically, the emotional bonds of true friendship endure far beyond constraints of circumstance and protocol. Another uninvited guest whose absence resonated deeply was Mel Brooks, the legendary comedian and lifelong friend of both Rob Reiner and his father, Carl Reiner. The relationship between Mel Brooks and Rob spanned decades, rooted not only in professional collaboration, but also in profound personal connection. Growing up, Rob witnessed the magical synergy between Carl and Mel, a dynamic that combined razor-sharp humor with deep human insight, shaping the young director's understanding of comedy, friendship, and life itself. From early television projects to theater and film, Brooks and Carl developed an extraordinary partnership, filled with late-night laughter, storytelling, and creative exploration that left an indelible mark on American comedy. As Rob matured, he absorbed the lessons of this partnership, forming his own connections with figures like Brooks, who became a mentor, friend, and spiritual guide in many ways. Over the years, Rob and Mel occasionally collaborated on special projects, attended memorials, award ceremonies, and dinners together, and shared personal and professional moments that strengthened their bond. Brooks, now advanced in age and frail in health by 2025, faced an impossible dilemma when Rob's sudden passing occurred. While his desire to attend and say goodbye was immense, Brooks understood that his physical body might not withstand the emotional intensity of the funeral. This internal struggle, between the need to honor a cherished friend and the limitations imposed by age and frailty, highlighted the profound depth of Brooks' affection and respect for Rob. The decision to stay away was not born of disinterest or neglect. Rather, it reflected a painful recognition of human vulnerability. Brooks quietly mourned in private, wishing he could have been there to pay tribute, whispering words of farewell that remained unspoken in front of others. His absence symbolized not only the physical limitations of age, but also the intricate balance of loyalty, respect, and grief that often governs human relationships, particularly when intertwined with loss. Friends and colleagues understood the significance of his non-attendance, recognizing the heartbreaking reality that even the closest bonds could be affected by circumstance and health. In the broader context of the funeral, Mel Brooks' absence underscored the extraordinary complexity of mourning within a family and social circle steeped in Hollywood history. It illustrated how grief is not only an emotional experience, but also a strategic, sometimes painful negotiation between personal desire, social expectation, and physical limitation. For Brooks, every memory of Rob, shared laughter, late-night conversations, shared milestones, remained vivid and potent, even as he was unable to step physically into the room where the final farewell took place. His story became a silent testament to the power of enduring friendship, a reminder that love and connection often persist quietly, even in absence, and that some of life's most meaningful relationships are measured not merely by presence, but by the depth of emotion, memory, and respect they inspire. In the eyes of those who knew the duo, Brooks' grief was a poignant echo of the immense human cost that loss imposes, demonstrating that even in Hollywood, where public spectacle often dominates, the quiet anguish of personal bonds remains profoundly real. Meg Ryan, one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses, was also among the uninvited guests at Rob Reiner's funeral, despite a decades-long professional and personal connection. Their relationship began in 1988 when Reiner cast her as Sally Albright in the iconic romantic comedy, When Harry Met Sally. On set, a natural rapport developed between director and actress. Reiner admired her spontaneity and comedic timing, while Ryan appreciated his gentle, insightful, and precise directing style. Together, they created a performance that would become emblematic of romantic comedy for generations, influencing countless films and establishing Ryan as a leading figure in Hollywood. Over the years, their public appearances together, anniversary events, award ceremonies, and special screenings reinforced the impression that a strong, enduring friendship existed between them. Yet, behind the public smiles, a subtle tension had quietly emerged. According to sources close to the family, Reiner had privately harbored dissatisfaction with a small but significant change Ryan made during climactic New Year's Eve scene, altering a few lines of dialogue without prior consultation. While seemingly minor, this act of improvisation touched on Reiner's artistic vision and left him feeling both surprised and disappointed, creating a fissure that never fully healed. Though he never confronted Ryan publicly or harshly, he confided in a select few, including Billy Crystal, expressing that while her talent and dedication were undeniable, he felt a certain betrayal in her unilateral decision. This quiet resentment, compounded over decades, influenced the family's later decision to restrict funeral attendance. Romy Reiner, Rob's eldest daughter, reportedly felt compelled to honor what she perceived as her father's unspoken wishes, deciding that Ryan, despite their shared history, would not be invited. From Ryan's perspective, this exclusion must have felt deeply confusing and painful. She had shared not only a transformative professional collaboration with Rob, but also decades of public celebration and personal warmth. The situation illustrates the complex interplay of loyalty, artistic integrity, and family authority, showing how long-standing relationships, no matter how profound, can be affected by perception, grief, and decisions made under extraordinary circumstances. Even so, Ryan continued to pay tribute to Reiner publicly, posting heartfelt messages on social media accompanied by photographs of happier times, acknowledging the influence he had on her career and personal life. These gestures reflected her enduring respect and admiration, even in the absence of a formal farewell at the funeral. In many ways, her exclusion highlighted the bittersweet nature of legacy and remembrance. While public accolades and shared memories endure, personal and family dynamics sometimes dictate the private rituals of grief, leaving even the closest collaborators to navigate their sorrow from afar. For Hollywood observers, Ryan's absence was a poignant reminder that fame and friendship, while powerful, are not immune to the intricate and often painful boundaries drawn by family, grief, and unresolved tensions. Her story, like those of the other uninvited guests, contributes to the larger narrative of loss, secrecy, and enduring emotional complexity surrounding Rob Reiner's final farewell. Albert Brooks, the celebrated comedian, actor, and filmmaker, was another of the 7 notable figures not invited to Rob Reiner's funeral, a decision that shocked many in Hollywood given the depth of their decades-long friendship. Their bond began during their teenage years at Beverly Hills High School, where the two young boys, full of dreams, humor, and curiosity, first connected over a shared love of performance and storytelling. This early friendship laid the foundation for a lifelong connection that would endure over 6 decades, surviving the pressures of fame, artistic competition, and personal evolution. As they pursued their respective careers, Reiner in directing and acting, Brooks in comedy and filmmaking, their paths occasionally intersected professionally, but it was their personal relationship that remained the most profound. The two friends shared laughter, emotional support, and countless small moments that, while private, were essential to their bond. They attended premieres together, offered each other advice, and exchanged heartfelt reflections on life, art, and family. Their connection was characterized by a rare combination of deep understanding and mutual respect. Brooks often credited Reiner with shaping his perspective on comedy and storytelling, while Reiner acknowledged Brooks' intelligence, wit, and sensitivity as invaluable to both his personal and professional life. Yet, when the tragic deaths of Rob and his wife Michelle occurred, Brooks was not permitted to attend the funeral, a decision reportedly made by Romy and Jake Reiner, Rob's children, who feared that Brooks' presence might unintentionally expose sensitive or uncomfortable family dynamics. Despite the exclusion, Brooks' grief was profound. He expressed shock, sorrow, and a sense of loss that extended beyond the death of a friend to the symbolic absence of closure. The decision also underscored the complex intersection of personal loyalty and family authority in times of grief. Even the most intimate and enduring friendships could be overridden by considerations of privacy, discretion, and emotional protection. Brooks, who had experienced life alongside Reiner from adolescence into their senior years, had witnessed triumphs, disappointments, and moments of extraordinary intimacy that few others could claim. His absence in the funeral, therefore, was more than a procedural exclusion. It represented the invisible cost of grief and the unspoken choices families make when balancing mourning, memory, and control over the narrative of a loved one's final farewell. Even so, Brooks continued to honor Reiner's memory in private and through public reflections, recounting cherished memories, collaborations, and humorous anecdotes that spoke to the depth of their shared life. These acts of remembrance, though carried out in quiet, demonstrated the enduring impact of their friendship and the impossibility of erasing decades of connection, even in the face of formal exclusion. In the broader context, Brooks' story reflects the universal tension between public tribute and private mourning, illustrating how love, respect, and memory persist even when circumstances prevent physical participation in final rites. His grief, while private, resonated with all who understood the profound and enduring nature of human relationships, emphasizing that true friendship transcends attendance, authority, and the limitations imposed by circumstance. Kiefer Sutherland, the acclaimed actor known for his intense performances and dynamic screen presence, was also excluded from Rob Reiner's funeral, a decision that stemmed from a complex mixture of past incidents and Reiner's personal concerns. Their relationship began in 1985 during the filming of Stand By Me, when Sutherland, then only 18 years old and relatively unknown, auditioned for the role of Ace Merrill. Reiner immediately recognized his raw talent, casting him without hesitation. On set, Reiner took time to guide Sutherland, offering mentorship and support, especially during emotionally and physically challenging scenes alongside young actors like River Phoenix. Their collaboration became a defining moment in Sutherland's career, instilling in him a deep respect for Reiner, not only as a director, but also as a mentor and advocate for actors' well-being. Over the years, although their paths rarely crossed on film projects, Sutherland often spoke highly of Reiner's guidance and influence on his early career. However, a particular incident during Stand By Me remained a sensitive subject for Reiner. In the climactic chase scene, Sutherland deviated slightly from the scripted action, throwing a real beer bottle toward a group of children instead of miming the act as planned. While no serious injury occurred, the moment caused Reiner significant anxiety, as he feared the safety of the young cast, particularly River Phoenix, who was directly in harm's way. Reiner never publicly confronted Sutherland about the incident, instead maintaining a cordial but cautious distance, acknowledging his talent while quietly carrying a lingering concern about his judgment on set. This nuanced tension persisted quietly for decades, becoming a private boundary within their professional relationship. When the tragic deaths of Reiner and his wife occurred, Romy Reiner, acting on her father's unspoken feelings, reportedly decided to exclude Sutherland from the funeral. She perceived that his presence might reopen old memories of that near accident or highlight uncomfortable anecdotes about the production, potentially overshadowing the solemnity of the ceremony. From Sutherland's perspective, the exclusion was undoubtedly painful, as he had regarded Reiner not only as professional mentor, but also as a guiding influence in his life. The situation underscores the intricate dynamics that sometimes govern decisions about mourning, illustrating how professional history, perceived trust, and past incidents can influence intimate family choices. Despite being left out of final farewell, Sutherland continued to honor Reiner's legacy publicly, recounting the lessons learned from working with him and expressing deep appreciation for his guidance. His story, like those of the other uninvited guests, highlights the delicate balance between personal history, emotional responsibility, and the ways grief can reshape relationships, even decades after formative events. In the broader narrative of Rob Reiner's funeral, Sutherland's absence serves as a reminder that loss is rarely simple, that choices about inclusion are often driven by complex considerations, and that the impact of mentorship and friendship can remain powerful even when formal acknowledgement is withheld. It is a testament to the enduring influence of Reiner's care, skill, and insight, showing that respect and admiration can persist quietly in memory and reflection, even when physical presence is impossible. Barry Merowitz, a longtime collaborator and trusted friend of Rob Reiner, was a final notable figure excluded from the funeral, a decision that reflected the complex intersection of personal loyalty, family grief, and tragic circumstance. Merowitz, a cinematographer who had worked with Reiner on projects such as Being Charlie, LBJ, Shock and Awe, and Albert Brooks, Defending My Life, was often considered part of the extended Reiner family. He frequently stayed at their home, sharing meals, conversations, and moments of levity that strengthened both personal bonds and professional collaboration. In November 2025, just weeks before the tragedy, Merowitz spent 5 nights at the Reiner residence preparing for a film premiere. The experience, filled with family-style dinners, laughter, and casual camaraderie, exemplified the warmth and trust Reiner extended to those closest to him. During that time, Nick Reiner, Rob's youngest son, appeared calm and helpful, performing small household chores without being asked and displaying a demeanor that seemed entirely ordinary. Merowitz, observing these interactions, casually offered a sincere compliment to Nick, a gesture meant to acknowledge his contributions and presence. Yet, in the eyes of Romy and Jake Reiner, the praise became a source of tension, as it highlighted a connection to a son who had become infamous for his later actions, which shocked and devastated the family and public alike. From the perspective of Rob's children, Barry's acknowledgement of Nick's qualities felt incongruent with the overwhelming tragedy they were enduring, and in the chaotic aftermath, they interpreted it as an act that could disrupt the controlled environment of the funeral. Romy reportedly conveyed her feelings directly to the funeral organizer, stating that Barry Merowitz, despite his long-standing relationship with the family, could not be allowed to attend, emphasizing that the decision was final and non-negotiable. This exclusion, while painful to both Merowitz and those who knew the depth of his friendship with Rob, was rooted in a combination of grief, trauma, and the desire to protect the solemnity of the ceremony. Even though Barry's absence prevented him from physically paying respects at the funeral, he continued to honor Reiner's memory through private reflections, interviews, and the preservation of their shared creative achievements. His story serves as a stark illustration of how extraordinary events can reshape perceptions of loyalty and presence, where even close friends may be excluded not due to lack of affection, but because of the emotional and psychological needs of grieving family members. In the broader narrative surrounding Rob Reiner's funeral, Barry Merowitz's absence highlights the intricate and often painful ways in which grief, family authority, and past associations influence decisions about who is allowed to participate in final farewells. It underscores the reality that love, respect, and admiration can endure even when circumstances prevent direct engagement, demonstrating that remembrance and tribute extend beyond physical presence to include memory, storytelling, and the quiet perpetuation of a life's influence. Through this lens, Merowitz's story reinforces a central theme of Rob Reiner's final farewell, that the impact of personal relationships, mentorship, and shared experience can remain indelibly etched in the hearts of friends and collaborators, even when official rituals of closure are denied. The story of Rob Reiner's funeral and the 7 uninvited guests serves as a deeply poignant reflection on the complexities of family, friendship, grief, and human relationships, illustrating how even the closest bonds can be affected by circumstance, perception, and the weight of personal loss. From Tracy Reiner, the adopted daughter whose lifelong connection to her father was dismissed in the immediate aftermath of tragedy, to Billy Crystal, the longtime friend whose decades of shared laughter and professional collaboration could not secure a place at the final farewell. Each absence tells a story of devotion, misunderstanding, and the difficult choices that accompany mourning. Meg Ryan, whose small creative divergence on the set of When Harry Met Sally subtly reshaped her relationship with Rob, was excluded not out of personal animosity, but in the interest of honoring what Romy Reiner perceived to be her father's unspoken wishes, showing how even minor conflicts from decades past can carry disproportionate emotional weight in moments of grief. Albert Brooks, whose lifelong friendship with Reiner was characterized by trust, respect, and shared artistic endeavor, was denied attendance due to the family's desire to prevent the exposure of sensitive behind-the-scenes truths, a decision that highlights the tension between preserving personal dignity and honoring authentic connection. Mel Brooks, despite his advanced age and the emotional strain it would have caused, was similarly absent, reminding us that physical limitations and vulnerability can shape the ways in which individuals engage with loss. Kiefer Sutherland, whose early career guidance and formative experiences with Reiner left an indelible mark on his life, was kept away because of unresolved safety concerns from a decades-old incident, reflecting how professional history and perceived responsibility can influence deeply personal decisions. Barry Merowitz, the family friend and collaborator whose warm presence and shared memories of everyday life were overshadowed by extraordinary tragedy, illustrates how grief can reinterpret ordinary actions, turning innocence into perceived offense. Taken together, these 7 stories reveal a funeral that, while intended as a private and controlled event, became a symbolic crossroads of loyalty, memory, and emotional complexity. Each absence carries its own narrative weight, creating a layered portrait of Rob Reiner's life, as seen